right now approaching the Dominican Republic. Remember, as this tropical storm moves over Hispaniola today, we expect that it will weaken some. Let's take a look at the official track from the National Hurricane Center. The movement is still west-northwest at 16 miles per hour. Remember, there's a high pressure system to the north. Clockwise motion around that high is going to drive this thing right across Hispaniola. That means that this already, just barely a tropical storm with sustained winds at 40 miles per hour is likely to fall back to depression status. But after that point, after that weakening, then what happens next is what we're going to be watching very closely, because the official forecast is for it to re-strengthen if it's able to stay over water. But there's some room for error here. If it starts to move over Cuba, I think that could make for a weaker, more disorganized storm and possibly a little confusion on the track going forward. But if it stays over the water, the concern for me would be that it actually ramps up in intensity a little bit more than is currently forecast. Of course, there are some questions about that, so I think the National Hurricane Center is staying with more central or moderate forecast, rightly so, but you're seeing 50 to 65 mile per hour winds, so it is showing strengthening in the eastern Gulf, which makes sense because that water is very hot. Let's take a look at those water temperatures. Again, this is my concern. If there's no interaction with Cuba, or minimal interaction with Cuba, and the storm stays over these waters, you've got those dark reds and even purple areas. Purple is where you have 87-degree or higher water that can lead to that rapid intensification that we heard about so much last year. When you have those dark reds, that's certainly conducive for a storm to strengthen or even maintain its strength. But again, in the purple, that's where you start to get concerned about rapid intensification, because that's extra warm water that you're dealing with there. Temperature-wise here at home, because again, this system is not our problem yet, may not be our problem at all. Definitely don't want you overly worked up about it. I think you need to focus on the heat and the humidity today once again, like we have been. Oh gosh, it feels like for a month now. Looks like those dew points are in the 70s, and I expect that we are going to see those dew points continuing to stay in the 70s today, which means feels like temperatures will get into the triple digits at times. We could be in that 100 to 105 range, so that caution area where we want you to make sure you're drinking plenty of water, listening to your body, taking breaks when you need to. Of course, a little pop-up storm might help you out. That would certainly help to alleviate the heat, at least briefly. And we can see a few of those developing offshore, off our east-facing shores this morning and right off the Mississippi Gulf Coast there south of Gulfport. I expect that most of the area will start off dry and that the rain chances will be around 30 to 40% today through the end of the week. We'll get those rain chances up to 40 to 50% over the weekend and into early next week. Again, this doesn't necessarily have to do with that system. If Fred were to have any impact in our area, which again, not indicating that right now, but if there were to be any impacts, that would likely happen early next week. So this is not accounting for that. That's just some extra moisture that's going to be around, leading to some higher rain chances. Temperatures will be in the low to mid 90s over the next 7 days. And a quick reminder that you can call the Delta World Tire weather phone anytime for a check on the forecast.
Well, let's just hope Fred stays away.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we're hoping for at this point. Right now, folks see it coming into the Gulf on Friday, and that obviously raises your alert level. Hopefully that just has folks preparing, but not getting too worked up right now.
All right, good advice. Thanks for that, Shelby. Muscle memory going on there.
I hear you. Let's take a look right now at the tropics, because the only thing we're really watching much of is Tropical Storm Fred, which is approaching the Dominican Republic right now. You can see a lot of storm activity around the southeastern side of where the National Hurricane Center is declaring the center of that storm. That said, strong high pressure is what we're going to be watching, making its way a little bit more westward and breaking down a little bit as it does. Remember, around high pressure, we've got a clockwise flow. That's going to take this thing right across or just north of Cuba. That's going to be a key point in the next couple of days that we're watching. As that high breaks down, though, there's this break in the high pressure that will allow the curve north, depending on that jet stream dip. How much of a jet stream dip do we get? How much does that high pressure weaken and back off to the east? All of that very important. as far as determining where this storm will ultimately go. So let's take a look at the computer models. This is going to show you that over the next 24 hours or so, we have a very clear path right there across Hispaniola. But then this is where, again, it's not much of a difference, but it's the difference between moving over yet another mountainous island there of Cuba or moving over pretty much open water. And you can see the models that have it staying over open water are in decent consensus. But where it gets a little weird is if it does move over Cuba, that may make the center of the storm disrupted. That could affect the whole structure of the storm, as we've talked about. So that could ultimately end up playing into the system. Temperature-wise, we are looking at 70s and 80s out there. So again, with Tropical Storm Fred, it's not our concern right now, but it is something that we're watching. We definitely want you to be prepared this time of year because there could be more coming behind Fred, of course. 77 in Belle Chase, 76 in Slidell. Your muggy meter shows dew points are in the 70s. Again, all you really have to worry about today is the heat, the humidity, and some pop-up storms. We are looking at those feels like temperatures getting to that 100 to 105 range potentially. So during the afternoon hours, make sure you're kind of checking in with your body, taking those breaks, drinking plenty of water if you need to. Viper radar is showing quite a bit of storm activity just offshore. If that starts to move inland, I may need to bump those rain chances up a little bit, but right now I'm sticking with a 30 to 40% chance. I expect that we will have some scattered storms out there today, but I'm not expecting it to be widespread or problematic out there. I do expect that with a little increase in moisture, we could see a few more storms around toward the end of the week and into the weekend. This 50% that you see into early next week does not account for any impacts potentially from Fred. At this point, we're not counting on impacts from Fred, so I'm not including that in the forecast. This obviously could change should the track of Fred change, but right now, that 50% chance is for a little bit of moisture that's going to kind of be stuck along the Gulf Coast with that dip in the jet stream as well. We won't have as much high pressure to suppress storms, so you'd expect to see higher rain chances anyway. Again, that's what we're looking at for late weekend, early next week. Temperatures are going to be in the low to mid 90s over the next 7 days, so it will continue to be hot. And a quick reminder, you can call the Delta World Tire weather phone anytime for a check on the forecast. Now something a little bit fun for you, enough about the tropics, right? Meg, John, how about this? The Perseid meteor shower is going on and it peaks tonight and tomorrow night. And I think we're going to have pretty good viewing conditions. A few folks even said that they went out last night and this morning and were able to see quite a bit. One lady said one about every minute is what she was seeing.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to look at your graphic. What time is the peak time?
Peak time will be really any time at night, but I think the best time to see will be in the very early morning hours, so kind of after midnight, but before sunrise.
So maybe while we're on our way to work.
Yeah.
I was about to say when we're asleep.
We'll be on the lookout for them on the way to work. Exactly.
And what part of the sky will it be in?
Okay, so you're going to want to look in the north to northeast part of the sky. Earlier in the evening, it's going to be closer to the horizon, but then it'll kind of go up, but still in that north to northeast sky throughout the night.
Fascinating. All right. Thanks for that, Shelby. That's all.
And tracking Tropical Storm Fred, in case you're just waking up and may have gone to bed early last night and missed this. This did become a tropical storm late last night as of the Hurricane Center's 10 p.m. update. And then it is continuing across the northeastern Caribbean, where it's expected to impact Hispaniola today. Here's how the track plays out. One thing you'll notice as I roll forward here is that it's expected to weaken over the next 24 hours. And that makes sense. It's crossing a very mountainous island that's going to disrupt the center of this storm, disrupt some of that storm activity as opposed to allow it to continue strengthening. But the next note is that it's going to be moving over open water most likely, allowing it to then increase in strength once again. I think the next question mark, so I told you that the first thing we're looking for is let's get it past Hispaniola because it may look different. It may be structured different on the other side of those mountainous regions. But the next question mark that we're going to be focusing on, probably in the next 24 to 48 hours, is how much interaction does it get with Cuba? Because if it does move over Cuba, staying on the southern side of this cone, one, that may put a weaker storm farther west as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico. So that would be something of note for us here locally. And then also, if it doesn't, that means it stays over open water, which may mean it strengthens a little bit more than is currently forecast. I think that water is really warm and could allow this thing to potentially become a hurricane in the eastern Gulf. Again, that's not the official forecast right now, but there are still some question marks in the long range about how much interaction with Cuba could serve to weaken the storm as opposed to how much that warm water could help it strengthen. So let's talk about that warm water. I often tell you on my graphics, I try to keep this consistent for you. Purple is where we're talking problems. When my graphics are talking about heavy rain rates in the area, purple is where it's a problem. And I think purple is where you're looking in the central and western Gulf right now. Very hot water. You're looking right here off the coast of Florida as well. Very hot water. I would say anything in the orange to red would allow for a storm to continue strengthening at a modest level or at least maintain its strength. When you start seeing purple, that's when you could see that rapid intensification. And I'm not saying that's for sure going to happen. Again, we do have that potential interaction with Cuba that could change things. But I would say that is a concern of mine as it enters the eastern Gulf, whether or not it could get much stronger moving over that very, very warm water. That said, right now, this storm is not a concern for us. It is just something we're watching. So what is a concern for us today? Temperatures are going to start off in the 70s and 80s. It is going to be muggy, and we could have some pop-up storms out there. So it's looking like another summer day for us. You can see those temperatures will climb into the mid-90s. So a really hot day unless you can catch one of those pop-up storms to help cool you down. We've got several storms offshore right now and a few trying to sneak into the marshy areas of St. Bernard and Plaquemines parishes. I'm going with rain chances 30 to 40% today through Friday. Saturday and into the weekend, we're going to have that high pressure break down a little bit. That's actually the same high pressure breaking down that's going to allow Tropical Storm Fred to curve north. So it's all connected. But right now, with no anticipation of Fred coming here at this point, this is not including any impacts from that. This is just that high pressure breaking down, allowing for showers and storms to possibly develop. High temperatures will be in the 90s for the next 7 days. John?
So I guess, too, if it does go east of us, it's a little too early to know whether it would be strong enough to put us basically in dry air and on the dry side?
Too early to say that. Yeah, that's always the hope if a storm's going east of us that we'll get that kind of wraparound dry air. But at this time, it looks like that lower pressure may still allow for some storms for us.
All right, well, we'll have to hope for the dry air. Thank you, Shelby. Let's head over to Christy now. Check on your...
At Fred right now as it makes its way into the Dominican Republic. I think what we are going to see at that 7 a.m. update is possibly some information as it approaches the Dominican Republic. If there's any weakening or strengthening of this system, what we expect is that as it crosses Hispaniola, it is going to weaken because that is a very mountainous area and that's likely going to serve to disrupt the system. But what is steering it right across the island of Hispaniola, of the Dominican Republic and Haiti? It's the strong high pressure system. Remember, a strong high pressure system is going to have a clockwise flow around it. So you've noticed probably that it's moving west-northwest. Yesterday at 17 miles per hour, today at 16 miles per hour. So it's moving at a pretty good clip and it's kind of following right along the bottom edge of that high. Well, as that high starts to break down, the clockwise motion around it will help this to start curving north. How fast does that happen, though? Does it still push it into Cuba, or does it pull it just north of Cuba, allowing it to stay over water? That will be an important note in the next 48 hours or so. And then by Friday, it could be entering the Gulf of Mexico and looking for some lower pressure to move toward. That dip in the jet stream, when it happens, how much that high breaks down, that's going to be the steering mechanism that we're watching to see how impacts could happen along the Gulf Coast once it does get into the Gulf on Friday. Again, the most likely day for impacts along the Gulf Coast would be Sunday into Monday. Of course, that'll be something that we're watching. Just to take a quick look at the computer models for you, I think this is really interesting. So the models that keep Fred off of Cuba are in pretty good agreement, right? Right across the water, starting to curve north. Notice the models that stay a bit farther south and go over Cuba, especially this white one, you can see it just is wiggling and wobbling because it's difficult for the model to determine where the center of that storm is going to be or where the structure, what the structure is going to look like if it's moving over the mountainous areas of Cuba. So that could be a problem with the forecasting of this if it does move over Cuba. If it doesn't, then we're going to be watching a more straightforward forecast, but possibly a stronger forecast if it's able to stay over open water. The other thing that we're watching, and this just updated on me, now looks like there's a medium chance. So these chances have gone up a little bit as of the 7 a.m. advisory, which it appears is now in. This area is coming off the coast of Africa. Plenty of time to watch that, but just another thing that we'll be watching out there. It's that time of year. Temperatures are in the 70s and 80s. The muggy meter shows dew points are high. While we don't have anything tropical to worry about in the Gulf today, there are some storms out in the Gulf right now. We do have some spotty storms. A few of those could move inland or we'll have our own pop-ups, and that could lead to a 30 to 40% chance for rain today. Same thing for tomorrow and Friday. I start to ramp those chances up a little bit late weekend and early next week, not necessarily because of Fred, but because of that dip in the jet stream. That lower pressure, not as much high pressure to suppress storms, will allow our rain chances to go up a little bit. High temperatures will be in those mid-90s with rain chances going up. I knock us down to the low 90s, but it's still going to be hot every day. Quick reminder, you can call the Delta World Tire weather phone anytime for a check on the forecast. And John, Meg, we talked about this last hour, but just something a little exciting for folks out there, especially parents. If you want to stay up late with the kids tonight, there will be the Perseid meteor shower going on, and looks like we'll have pretty good viewing hours for it.
Cool. It's always a good show.
Yeah, it is. I had a viewer say that she went out last night and saw about one a minute.
Oh, wow.
All right.
So a really good show being put on by, well, I guess not Mother Nature. Whoever's in charge of the sky out there.
Mother Universe.
Mother Universe.
All right. Thanks very much, Shelby. Cruising.